everybody, welcome to the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. I'm thrilled that you're back. Another episode, another opportunity to be that lawyer, confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. If you are not familiar with Fretzin, what I do work with attorneys in two ways, coaching and training them to be rainmakers through a very involved program involving coaching and training, actual classes that lawyers go through, and then also my Rainmaker Roundtable. So if you're already a Rainmaker and you want to keep going on the same course, but just be surrounded by other very strong Rainmakers, that's the program for you. When I'm not doing that, I'm busy doing this, right? Doing tons of marketing and podcasting and books and blah, 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 blah. Ben, it's almost like a second job.
Absolutely. If you want to run a business and you want to show people and teach them how to do coaching, which we both do, and business development in and around lawyers, you have to also show and tell and do yourself as well. And you've got to build your own book of work.
I think that's a very fair point that if I'm not doing all the things that I'm teaching my clients to do, that feels a bit hypocritical.
Oh, absolutely. And they can smell it. Everyone wants to know that you stand by what you do and you actually follow your own methodology.
Yeah. Right on. All right, everybody. We got Ben Paul here, starting off with the quote of the show. Thomas Edison, who, I've seen enough movies to know this guy did a lot, but man, did he delegate quite a bit too. Here we go. Just because something doesn't do what you planned it to do doesn't mean it's useless. So welcome to the show and talk to us a little bit about your friend Thomas Edison.
Yeah, look, Thomas Edison's someone everyone admires. What's interesting is I've got two children. My second boy is actually called Edison, but he's not named after Thomas Edison. He's named after the footballer Pele, which is a bit bizarre. But he was born in the World Cup year, and as you'll know, Steve, I'm a tragic, an avid soccer fan, as you would call it. So I just think this is a great quote because there's so many things right now that are being invented and created, and they don't necessarily have the answer or have the outcome you want, but they usually have a second or another outcome. And we'll see this in a lot in sort of the technology that we see in around us, right? You want it to do something, it spits something out. It's not what you're looking for that time, you throw it away. But actually, sometimes if you come back to it, it's actually helpful in something else you're trying to do, or it could be used to a secondary thing as another use. So yeah, I think it's really, really powerful to think just because we're so focused on one thing, something else can happen. And I think that's also true in our client relationships. We can be really focused on trying to get in a sale, and actually sometimes we miss the wider opportunities that are out there to ask bigger questions, broader questions, which can actually lead to bigger and better opportunities down the track because we're just focused on the here and now.
Yeah. And the fact is even if something you try doesn't go the way, it's an experience, right? It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to know, hey, this didn't work, so I'm going to do it differently next time, or maybe I'm going to avoid that next time, or I'm going to work off of that mistake. And that's what Edison, I mean, the light bulb, how many failures to get to, to get to the one that worked? There's thousands, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And the more you fail, the better you get. There's no denying that. And I can see the Jordan, shirt behind yourself there, and there's that famous Nike commercial, like I take the winning shot because I failed, and it's one of the best commercials of all time, and it's absolutely true. How many times did that guy miss the key shot, but actually when it really mattered over his career, he didn't, because he put himself forward and learned from those experiences and got better.
Yeah, right on. Hey everybody, you're listening to me and Ben Paul, CEO of the BD Ladder, out of New Zealand. So I've got some good international friends, and we love to talk about our friends, the Hammers, and we love to talk about what we call soccer, they call football, and that's okay, right? We got past that pretty quickly, but we also love to talk shop as two business development coaches in different sides of the world, and we have things in common to talk about that makes it interesting for us to just kind of see how the other half of the world is living and what they're doing and what lawyers struggle with. And you've been really focused on AI for a while. I think it's something that I brought up on the show with a great content guy from the last show, but we didn't really dive too deep into AI. And I was really hoping you could take us a little bit further and maybe start off with all right, lawyers know about AI. Maybe they've even been on ChatGPT and typed something in, but that may be the extent of it. So where would you like to start with AI? Well, you know what? I apologize. Dummy. Before we even get to that, give us your background, man. I totally messed that up. But let's go back one step, then we'll go back to AI.
Okay. So look, my career, I've been a direct salesperson selling, actually, interestingly, IT training. It is kind of relevant today because when I was selling IT training, one of the things that I was really good at was selling the training courses for the brand new products, the things that came to market, bringing it real. It excited me. It's change. It's interesting, right? We're selling that to big corporates out of London. So yes, I'm based in New Zealand, but I'm originally a Londoner, hence the West Ham thing. But also that gives me a nice world perspective about what we're talking about here today. Um, then I worked in-house, as many people do, for various law firms and other professional services. Really enjoyed that BD and marketing experience. And around 2020, decided to form my own business, which is the BD Ladder, which stands for Business Development Ladder. And the whole ethos behind that and the reason for the ladder is it's a step-by-step practical approach to give people results, to help people who aren't salespeople to actually do sales, to help people who aren't marketing to do marketing. Yes, we work with some big companies as well that require us, and they obviously have BD and marketing teams, and we help guide them and help them. But it's most fun, like as you'll know, Steve, when you work directly with those lawyers and those people who just need that help and that practical steps and an ability to feel more confident they can have a sustainable pipeline of work. Because the most stressful thing for any lawyer is not having any work or not having any visibility of any work.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the most stressful thing for any consultant. And
Right.
right now, the world's a bit squiffy, and depending on your region, the recessions are deeper or not so deep, depending on where you sit. So there's more work to be done right now for people in this space.
Yeah. And I think we were talking the other day that there is a dramatic difference between what's happening in the US. Like lawyers have never been busier or had more work, and I don't know that that's the same in other parts of the world.
Look, absolutely not, and it's pockets here in New Zealand. So we are in quite a big recession, probably the worst one we've experienced for a long time. The GFC wasn't so bad here because we're not a financial center like the US or London, where it would really hit deep. Yes, it's hit retail, but it's hitting all our businesses. Government has stopped spending. So right now, property lawyers not very busy,
Yeah.
but we're seeing quite a little bit of work around kind of sort of the litigation and employment side. So all the traditional areas where you would expect in a recession to work, so they're playing out. So if you've got that multi-firm practice, you're cushioned a little bit. Your revenue may be slightly down from year on year, but actually it's probably grown from 2019. There was an artificial bump in that sort of 2020 to 23 kind of period due to global factors, which we don't want to go into, but we all know what they are. Um, but if you sit in some of those boutique or you're a solo practitioner and you're in one of those spaces, it's tough
Yeah.
because the work is lessened. People just aren't doing the commercial property deals, and certainly the housing market is called and stuff like that. So that just also has an effect on those people who work in those type of areas.
Right. And that's where, BD and marketing and AI and all that comes into play because we can't just sit on our hands and wait for things to get better. We've got to step up and there's still a pie and there's pieces of the pie and
Mm,
it's who's getting what piece and how much. And someone that's just used to sitting in front of a computer and cranking out
a-
billable hours isn't gonna get the pie the same way someone that's anxious to get out and meet people and talk to clients and come up with other, ways of
Absolutely.
building business. So that's a good transition then to go back to where I screwed up a minute ago with getting into AI before your background. My apologies, my friend,
Mm.
but where do lawyers start with AI? Let's just put that out front.
And look, there's a lot out there, right? And we're going to talk about the stuff that's free and readily available. We're not going to get into the purpose-built custom software and on all the expense around that because that's a whole due
Yeah, that's
diligence piece in itself.
fair. That's fair.
Um, but reality, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I need to build a book of work, my work's down, or I just want to use this to speed up what I'm doing, you need to have a plan of what you're doing and understand where you're going to start. It's really, really key. Just going back on that last bit you said there around the pie, I think that's really interesting because it starts with what metrics do you measure? Most people measure their revenue, and revenue goes up, then revenue goes down, and it panics. If you can get a kind of feel for the size of market you're playing in, to how much available revenue in that market. So, you know, if you're a Chicago law firm in property, how much is in that overall market that you could go for, and how much is your market share? And if you can measure your market share and maintain that, that's a really good place to be because when markets drop, you could arguably actually grow your market share and you can still grow. So that's really important. And that whole research is really important because that's where you start with AI. You know, I'm here. You can actually ask ChatGPT, I'm a property lawyer in London. I'm targeting these types of properties. What should my ideal clients look like? It will give you an answer, right? So you can
Hmm.
start doing that whole profile. Then you can ask it, what kind of business development activity do lawyers do in this space, in this area? And it will give you an answer again. So what you're now starting to do is build a plan. So you're starting to build some research. There's all around how you prompt it and what you do. So traditionally, most people will be familiar with a business development, a sales plan, or the dreaded partner plan. That lovely thing that sits in a drawer, gets wheeled out at the end of the year.
Now the firm
Change the
made me do
date.
it. The firm made me do
The
it.
firm, yeah, the firm made me do it. This is really, really powerful, and I really follow it. And I will change the date on it and resubmit it.
There you go. I got a
Yeah,
plan for
yeah, and
next
then
year. It's just a different
yeah, yeah,
date.
yeah. And at some point, 7 years down the line, their target number 4 has been acquired and no longer exists. But that name is still going through for the last 3 years on their plan, and no one's questioned it. So, and therein is there a point to the validity of that? When you're creating a plan, the first thing you got to do is try and understand how much time you'll give to it and how much you will follow it and how much detail you need in that plan to follow it. And everyone's slightly different, but you can get AI to create you a typical sales plan for your type of law in your type of jurisdiction and your type of area, and it will be pretty good.
Right. And then I'm assuming you have to update some prompts and right, is that the lead into
Yeah, so you're going to have to
refinement?
sort of say refinement. This is there. You might even say, so who are the top 10 commercial property companies in? It may not give you an exact answer, but it will give you something.
Yeah.
You can ask it, who are the lead in here? Who have you got a rich list in this area, whatever you're trying to target? And it's really important you understand your target audience. So if you don't do that, you're going to have to go for a whole planning stage. And yes, you can try and prompt that with AI. I would say that's probably a stage where you sit down and go, hey, this is my business plan here. Who do I work with? Who's bought my services? Who's likely to buy my services? What does that look like? Then you can start building that plan. Then you can say, hey, Gemini, ChatGPT, where do these people appear in the marketplace? Where do they talk? Because if they're appearing in the press, that will tell you the press they read is the press they appear in, which tells you if you want to do a content strategy plan, that's where you want to appear. So now you're starting to get into granular detail of it. But you can go, how often should I be writing content? How often should I be posting on LinkedIn? What types of activities can I do to win work? So what you're creating now is a plan.
Wait a second. Are you
Then,
taking away my job?
yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Because if we're really honest with what we do in our coaching thing, and for all the BD professionals who support lawyers out there, right? The plan is the easy part. It should be replicable. It
Yeah.
should be there. It never works if you sit there and write the plan for the person anyway, because then we're back to that partner plan that sits in the thing and no
Well,
one follows, right?
I'm gonna maybe not argue, but kind of like point counterpoint here. I mean, so
Yeah.
I'm going through with clients a SWOT
Mm,
analysis. I'm going through with them
mm,
who are their targets, what's their buyer
yeah.
persona, what's their marketplace. We're developing an objective, strategies, tactics, action. So
Which
like
is
I'm going
which
through
is
all of that to ensure that they have not ChatGPT, but a GPS
yeah.
to
Yeah,
figure
yeah.
out like, here's where I am, here's where I want to go, and here's what I need to actually do. And then, of course, there's the accountability that they're actually going to do it. It's not going to get
Ah,
shelved because it's out in front of us every time we meet.
and that's absolutely going to work. But the linguistics lawyers will like this here. If I do a plan for you, you won't do it.
Oh, wow.
If I
Yeah.
walk alongside you,
Yes. Yes.
as you're
Yeah.
describing
It's
there,
their plan. I'm coaching them through
it,
writing it. They're actually writing it, and then it's their responsibility to follow it with my specific boot in their rear.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So you'll facilitate it. Now, this in the early research stages and building that plan is where AI can be really powerful because it can speed up that process.
Okay. Yeah. I love that.
What it's lacking then is if you have an experienced colleague or an experienced coach like yourself to sit down and go, hey, look, I just want to sense check this before I launch ahead, spend my marketing budget, wear out 15 pairs of shoes, going out and pounding the pavements and going seeing everyone. Does this make sense? In your experience, does it make sense?
Yeah.
And look, ChatGPT can trawl its archives and try and claim experience, but it isn't the same experience as we have, as your colleagues have who've been through it, as anyone who's built a business will have gone through, right?
Yeah.
Which is why arguably some regions now are bouncing back quicker from the recession than others because they've got more experience of recessions. The business know what to do. They don't stop spending. Whereas in ones like here where they're struggling, everyone's just cutting spend on the classics like marketing and training and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff because there's no experience. Yet we
Yeah.
know that if you actually do the opposite, you're going to be in a
Yeah.
better place.
Every
Yeah.
book
So
says do the opposite. Don't cut back. Actually make that investment. But that being said, some people like legitimately don't have the
yeah.
ability to do it. So I get that, but it's which is frustrating. But the
Uh,
AI for planning, I love the idea that it's out there to get someone's motor going, to get
mm,
somebody started in it, and then they've got to check
yeah.
it, prompt it, reprompt it.
Yeah.
What other things are lawyers should they be using AI for marketing to they're busy and they aren't going to do this just
Okay.
on their own.
So
They need assistance.
yeah, and look, I'd say personal branding and content marketing are the obvious first cabs off the rank. And if you're not using it for that now, hands up, I am.
Yeah.
My clients are. Why wouldn't you? Right?
Yeah.
It's understanding what you use it for and how you use it, right? So great. I found an article. It's interesting to my client base. It's on the internet. It's in the newspaper. I want to post it. Hi ChatGPT, please write a post for this on LinkedIn, complete with hashtags. Great. It throws something out that maybe an enthusiastic 21-year-old might write, and you look at it and go, that's probably not going to fit with my brand. Okay. Now, can you write it more in the tone of a commercial lawyer or a corporate lawyer or a tax lawyer, whatever it might be? Comes out, hopefully it removes the emojis. It looks a little bit there. You could keep prompting this and you could waste a lot of time doing this at this point. Or you could say, actually, what I've just had is the quickest, cheapest junior copywriter that man or woman has ever invented. I can just edit this now. So all that thought process, and it's very good at summarizing articles and taking the key points out. So if you don't want to read the whole article, you can actually rely on it to take those summary points out. Yes, fact check by all means if you need to, and just, but most cases of LinkedIn, you're going, hey, look, here's an article. The key points are sort of around this. If you're in this space, you might want to be aware of the third one because it'll have an impact on your business. Happy to chat to you. Here's the article. Bang, done.
Yeah.
That that will take you less than a billable increment once you get used to it, right? So now you
Yeah.
can post 4 or 5 articles for the month in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This is the speed and efficiency side of doing it and getting your profile out there and your personal branding out there and being really specific with it and really understanding it. Because LinkedIn now has a scheduling tool as well, you can schedule your 3 or 4 weeks ahead. So I
Yeah.
had to play at this at the turn of the year. I was more consistent in my marketing, and my views per week went from about 800 of people seeing it to over 4,000 every week of people getting those impressions, and
Yeah.
engagement went up and all the other metrics you want to see. So super, super simple to do that, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
So
and
let
then
me
you,
let me take it one step further, which is, how can AI personalize the experience for clients of the lawyers? So now we've talked about the marketing side of it, and I
yep,
think, just to kind of wrap that up in a bow, I mean, the lawyers have to play with it. You've got to, try it
yeah,
out. You've got to watch some YouTube videos, like you got to be in there and kind of messing around in the
I
sandbox a
think,
little bit before you
yeah,
feel
let
comfortable,
me
but
just,
that's
let
okay.
me, so let me sort of be a bit specific around if you're going to try and write an article, for example.
Okay.
You say, look, I want to write an article I want it to be roughly about 1,000 words. I want to write a piece on what should clients think of when they're taking a lease, commercial lease in downtown, insert name of city there. It will throw out an article that's pretty good. That's one way. But you could break it down step by step. Say, could you give me a title for the article based on this criteria? Can you give me the content for an article based? Can you give me the structure of an article based on this criteria. And you go, that's quite good. Then you might say, could you write the first paragraph, or could you write the entire piece, or could you write the main bit here? Then you look at it and go, that's a pretty good, accurate, generic piece. I'd need to check some of the legislation. You absolutely should. Don't rely on it. Don't trust it. It's a
Yeah.
habitual liar. It wants to please you or give you an answer. As people who've used it for evidence in parts of the states have found out, right, it's not the way to go. Double check it. But you've got a really good structure for for an article. That would probably normally take you about 3 or 4 hours to get to.
Yeah.
Now you've short-circuited that. Now you're into the last hour of editing. Lawyers are great editors, and they tend to know their clients and things. So now you've got to do the stuff where you bring in the stuff that's personal, your experience, the things you're happy to share. You don't want to put that in Chat GPT, because then you're putting it in the AI to learn and you're giving your information to other people. But you want to put that in the article and get it out there.
Yeah.
So it's really, really powerful. And then if you're really clever and you go, well, I want to optimize this for commercial leasing in Sydney, you can go right back and you can put the article back in, or you can put the intro and the conclusion in and say, can you please optimize it for this SEO keyword phrase? Bang. It's better at writing repetitively than we are, because we as humans, we hate repetition, but machines are quite good at it. It looks good. Now you've got an SEO optimized article. So now you've got something really practical to work on, right? And you
Yeah.
can do it and you can get it out there.
Yeah. And how is this going to affect lawyers' work with their clients to maybe improve the client experience? Let's transition to that, because that's an area that lawyers may not have thought of. They might have thought of the article piece, but
Yeah.
maybe not. Like, how is this going to actually improve how they provide great service?
And look, again, you can get into that whole plan inside of what does great customer service look like? What should we do? But it's really also understanding what else you can take to your client. So you can you know, hey, you can ask AI, like, I want to talk to the client about stuff other than the work we're working on, other than the matter in hand. Can you give me some ideas of how I can do that? Can you suggest an email? Because I want to discuss what's going on in the sector. Can you write that for me?
Yeah. And
Having played with
I
this,
wrote that email today and got it out to a ton of people, but it took me 5 minutes because I know what I'm doing and I know what I want to
yeah,
write, and got the message. But some lawyers would lament about it for
mm,
maybe days before getting that email written, because they just don't have the language or the words
yeah,
at the tip of their tongue. So this is a great option for
mm,
how to write an email, or how to, how to communicate in when it's you're a
yeah,
perfectionist attorney or whatever.
yeah. And look, you can use this now to get it to say, hey, this is my client, they're interested in these things. Could you suggest 2 or 3 emails or types of emails I could write to the client to get a meeting with them to discuss that? And it will spit something out, and it will be okay. It's going to be about 60 to 70% there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it's going to lack is the stuff that you have if you have knowledge of your client. It's not going to know the personal stuff. It's not going to know the relationship. Arguably, it's not a great ghostwriter. It's getting better. The more you use it, the better it gets at being a ghostwriter for you. But actually, the more you add your personal touch, your personal flair, your personal style in the email that you send, the better it will be, and the more likely it is to be received well.
Yeah, for sure.
But what it does do is really good structure, and it gets you past that stage of inaction. It gets you to action, which is the key part, as we discussed in our first podcast. Doing nothing is an answer to going nowhere. Doing something slightly imperfect with a bit of imperfection will get you forward, right? And we need to do that. So it gets you past that point. By all means, ask it, how frequently should I talk to my client outside of the work I'm doing? And how often should I meet them? How many relationship meetings?
Mm,
Find a way. Yes, the likes of us can tell you. Yes, your colleagues can tell you. But if that gives you confidence, great. And then diarize it in. And then when you diarize it in your Outlook or whatever you're using, right? Great, here it is. But at the top end of town, there's CRMs now that are building this in, that are saying, hey, you need to contact your client today. It's Thursday. Here's some suggested content you should say to them. You can use the tools out there to kind of almost create your own version of that. So you've got a artificial friend, a robot friend that's actually helping you prompt and know what to say. But always remember that just sending it without reviewing it, checking it, editing it won't be the right outcome for you. But use it as a really, really powerful help and support.
yeah. Are there I mean, not to go negative, but I mean, there's also some fear about AI, and not global disaster fear. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. But I mean, lawyers have obligations, and they have ADRC here in the US, where
Mm.
they're regulated, right? It's a regulated
Yeah.
industry, so they've got to be very careful about what they're putting online, or what they're putting out there and all this. So what should they do to protect themselves before producing anything AI generated?
Well, it's your checks and balances on anything you do, right? So if you were using a freshly graduated lawyer in your firm to write the first draft or anything, or write the first contract, would you send that out? The answer is no.
Right.
So what's your process to review it, right? Double check it. If there's something that looks too good to be true, probably is. It will make up cases, and they'll be very convincing if you ask it to formulate an argument to prove something. That's a dangerous prompt there. So find me find me all the recent cases and case law, or create an argument for me to win this case, right? It will create an unbelievably good argument. But as I think I said earlier, it's a habitual liar. It wants to please you. It
Yeah.
wants to give you the answer it wants. It will always give you the answer, whether it's factually based or not. So it's on you to factually check that, right?
Yeah.
Where you are, you'll need to know the laws of what you can say and what you can't say. You can be guided by professionals on that. You can double check it with some of your member bodies. Mostly you can say more than you think you can, which is to say you can give a personal opinion without it being a legal opinion. It's just how you write it,
Yeah. One of
how
my
you address it. You know,
clients,
that this,
yeah,
go on, Karen.
sorry, I interrupted. One of my clients, had it review like a contract, and
Mm,
like make suggestions for arguments and changes to
yeah,
a contract. And he was impressed because it had many of the ones he had. And then on
yeah,
top of that, it added two more that he
mm,
hadn't thought of, that
yeah,
were like legit, right? That he
yeah.
just had to wordsmith and make sure they were right. But he was like, oh, I didn't even think of those things. And he was like thrilled that he was able to get in a couple extra points in a contract that normally he wouldn't have thought of. So it's just the checks and balances at this stage, right?
Yeah, so you got to have your processing training, and like, that's a really good example because you're asking it to review something. You can check the review, right? So
Yeah.
if you're doing a proposal for a piece of work, you can say, can you review the RFP that I've submitted? Let me know what you think. Just be careful, obviously, if you're putting anything like that in proprietary open source AI, that all your case studies and examples would then be open to the rest of the world and now be used and shared widely. So
Yeah.
you just need to again have that check and balance of what you put in is available to others. There are intranet type versions of AI that people can use for contracts. There's some out there now to actually respond to big tenders and RFPs. So you've got a knowledge-based management system which will churn out the first answers based on you. But it's really powerful stuff. And the fact that it's, you can go and make a coffee and it's already done this work before you get back, it's really a great time saver.
Yeah.
What we've also got to understand is, while we have digital natives currently working in the workplace, in the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to have AI natives. So when you're saying prompting's hard, actually your next generation of lawyers coming through and those that you're bringing through in your graduate program stuff, they're going to be AI natives. And if you don't think they are, like I think the example we said at the start, they're writing their essays and they're doing their work on it to such an extent that universities and schools are using AI to check whether it's AI written.
Yeah, they
Like the
have to,
battle, the
right?
battle of the robots, right?
Well, high school and college and everything, it's like they've got to make sure it's real. I mean, you want to know it's a
Yeah.
human that's doing the work. And in some instances that's important, like with in school, and then in
Mm.
other circumstances, who cares? If it's right, it's right. And if it's going to help win a case or get a contract completed faster, then great. We don't need a human to do it if it's going to be right.
No, absolutely. And this will come to the point of all the stuff. School's going to go full circle in a way as well, which is really important. It's like I used to love doing history because you could read all the sources and growing up in England, medieval history, what's right and wrong. So where's the bias in the source? Can you trust it?
Yeah.
Is it legit? So all those kind of skills are just coming back in. It's just that we've got AI in it. So machines produce something. Is it right?
Yeah.
It always produces a right answer based on the data you give it, much like a calculator. There is no difference.
Yeah.
What you put in, you'll get an answer. But you
Yeah.
need to have that knowledge of maths to check whether that's right. You'll need to have a knowledge of the law, of people, of business to double check, is it right? Which
Yeah.
bits are right? If it's producing content, or even, let's be argument, like a university essay, if it's producing the 60, 70% of just churn and words and fill, but the next 30% is that person's brain, knowledge, experience, finesse, then that's arguably a bit where the mark should be and where the human difference comes in as well.
Yeah.
It isn't a great emotional writer, and that's why it doesn't touch people.
All right. Well, listen, I think we have to wrap up on that note. We have a game-changing podcast, This Legal Life, Not Another Legal Podcast. I feel like I've been on that before. I have to look that up. I've been on so many
Yeah,
podcasts,
you
it's hard
have.
to
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
track. I have. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So tell us a little bit about that podcast so everyone knows.
That's good friends of mine, Ben Boga at Nexel. I was their first guest on it. That's one of the reasons why I like it. The other reason I like it is they've just had so many guests like yourself, Steve, people in the AI sphere, people, lawyers, just a whole range of people in and around the legal field. So if you like the business of law, whether it's sales, running a law firm, growth, people, there's something for you. And it's so consistent. It's just great to see it. And there are people from all around the world.
Yeah.
So much like this. It's just a really great listen.
Very cool. Well, check that out, everybody. And let's take a
Yep.
moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, of course, sponsoring my own Rainmakers Roundtable. So again, if you're a Rainmaker managing partner, feeling like you're on an island, you want to get in a room where it happens, where lawyers talk shop, they share best practices. I bring in experts from around the world to talk with them, as well as allow them to just solve each other's problems and hold each other accountable. It's a wonderful, very collaborative group. Just email me at steve@fretzin.com to get a meeting with me to see if you qualify. And of course, I want to thank our sponsor, Rankings.io. If you're looking for SEO to get first on Google, if Google ads, website design, whatever it is you need, they are a top player in the space. And hopefully you'll check them out, Rankings.io. And Ben, thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about the coaching you're doing for lawyers, what are the digits?
Right. So the best way is bdladder.com. You'll find me and all my contact details on there. Really simple, loads of free stuff and lots of articles that you can get your teeth stuck into as well. Alternatively, ben@bdladder.com. Just email me, I'll respond. But do check out our BD Ladder YouTube channel. There's heaps of free stuff there and great interviews on business and just practical sales advice like we're giving today. But we keep updating it. There's more to come. So make sure you subscribe when you're there.
Well, there you go. There you go. And I think you're working on something with the AI and for lawyers. So that's not, I'm not putting you on the spot too much, but that's in the works, right?
So yeah, the book is planned, and you'll know more than I do. This is my first book. The book is planned and we have the chapters written. We know what we're talking about, hence why we could articulate today. And we'll be bringing that out hopefully sometime this year.
Nice.
Because we're trying to commit to that. And the idea, and I think it's really, really relevant. And it'll be like today, we're just going to give practical examples of how lawyers and other professionals can use this in isolation without spending a fortune to speed up their BD work with that sort of sense check just to help them drive their growth. And then
Awesome,
they know
man.
when to use colleagues or external people to give them help along the way as well, because you always need that human experience as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for being on the show. I'm glad that we were able to catch up a few weeks ago and get you back. And we'll root for those West Ham United, team, and hopefully they don't play, Manchester City too often.
Hopefully not.
It's a tough team.
Yep.
But anyway, I appreciate you and I appreciate you sharing your wisdom. And we'll keep in the loop, okay?
All right. Cheers, Steve. Thank you very much.
All right. Cheers, my friend. And thank you, everybody, for spending time with Ben and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We will talk again very soon.